to start off today with encouraging you that our daily disciplines and the way that we create and build and structure our routine is really where it's at for the success of our business, right? And because we're adults, we know that many times we don't feel like doing that, but that we have to as adults. Like as kids, we didn't feel like doing it, and so we resisted it or shortcutted or found a way around it. But as adults, we know that we have to. So we know that we have to personally grow. We know that we have to sacrifice things that maybe are more fun or more gratifying for the moment than self-discipline, and really building these routines of discipline. So I thought this was a great topic that we start off with. And then I'm putting a post up, finishing it today on the blog about burnout. I had asked you guys for your input on that a while back. And so I'm finally getting that post up and putting y'all's quotes in there. And, burnout is so common, and not just in our industry. I've noticed when you look at statistics online or do your research, it's the burnout is in areas of serving. So it's very commonly in community service industries. So nurses, therapists, psychologists, doctors, social workers, people who serve. And so we're coaches. Some of you are coaching through your writing. Some of you are coaching in person or over the phone. And some of you are coaching in groups, leading groups. And so many times we face that same kind of burnout because we are just giving so much of ourselves. Well, did you know that developing routines of self-discipline in your business and in your personal life is one of the key ways really to prevent burnout? Because some things are going to become less of a battle and more of an autopilot. And so now the article, I go into several other points. So please do tune into that on the blog. I'll get you guys the link when I get that up later today. And then remember, we're having our coffee and chat Saturday the 11th, and we're going to be talking on that chat. And I've got a couple of guest speakers, and we're going to be talking about burnout on that live chat. And that's going to be through, they'll be on camera as well, and that'll be through webinar. So this little segment is going to be happening every week on Wednesdays. Working on it Wednesdays. What are we working on in our business? So I want to hear from you, because I want to make sure when I bring, when I talk about the things I talk about, that it's in alignment with what you struggle with or what you feel or can relate to. So be sure and let me know what you are working on in your business. But for today, I just prepared a little something out of Joyce Meyer's book, and you ask my coaches in the support group. I love this book. It's called Never Give Up by Joyce Meyer. And I love all of her books, but this one especially is, you can see that it's, let me show you guys, very loved over here because it's written in and marked with Post-its. And hey, Laura, I'm so glad you're here, Laura. Otherwise, I'd be talking to nobody. Thank you for coming. So very much a loved book, but she talks in here about disciplines. This is such a good book, you guys, for personal growth as business owners. What chapter am I in? It Will Cost You is the name of the chapter. It'll cost you. And she says, discipline may not be pleasant for your flesh while you're doing it, but it will give you a tremendous sense of satisfaction in your soul. The satisfaction that comes from knowing you are making good choices. If you will pay the price to be disciplined now, you will enjoy rewards later. If you don't pay the price to do what is right now, then you'll suffer the consequences of an undisciplined life later. You can pay now or you can pay later. But at some point, we all reap the harvest of the choices we've made. We can't simply wish our lives were different. We have to press through laziness, fleshly desires, bad attitudes, and refuse to give up on the discipline that will yield good fruit later on. And she kind of goes into a story about her own weight loss battle, which I know we can all relate to because a lot of us are weight loss coaches, or we've had our own struggle and can relate that way. And And so she talks about that, and she says, she remembers the scripture, for the time being, no discipline brings joy. And she says, but let me ask you, if you're not happy with the situation you're in right now, will you make the effort to change it? Do you want to be in the same situation this time next year? Hey, Shannon, good to see you. And how many of us are like that? Like, we are complaining, or we are frustrated, or we're feeling stuck working in our business, working on our weight loss, working on our personal growth, working on financial situations, and we're wishing it's different, but we're not putting in the work. How many of us? And I know, I can raise my hand here. But if you want to have something different, then you'll have to pay the price on this end to have what you want on that end. And you will have to spend some of this year moving towards your goals for next year. As you move forward, you will have to make tough choices, and you'll come to some painful crossroads. How many of us can totally attest to this? When you reach those places, you will either run back to where you came from, or you will press through. And if you press through without giving up, then you'll have the victory you long for later on. And that's just like the tiniest part of this chapter. The whole chapter is about the price of success and the price of self-discipline. And she talks about choosing the pain. You know how we talk about when the pain of change is greater, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, then we change, right? So she talks about that in this chapter. But doesn't the scriptures also cover this in just great detail? I challenge you to go to the scriptures, use a concordance. You can use an online search if you want, and put in discipline, put in self-discipline, and what are some of the other words we use for that? Routines, and, put in those words. Look up what the scriptures, the Holy Scriptures, have to say about this topic, and then follow that. The Holy Spirit will speak to you through those scriptures. But we cannot expect our next, or even this year in business, to be different than last year if we are not willing to put in the work, meaning setting up the systems, setting up the daily discipline, being willing to be in obedience to the fact that we need discipline. That we're like 50% of the way there, you guys, when we get that down. Don't you agree? Yes, Shannon, this is such a Lent message, and I didn't even think about that because God gave it to me like last week in preparation for today. But today's the first day of Lent. We're talking about surrender, obedience, daily discipline, giving up, laying down our flesh. Okay, so how does this apply in business? So many of us struggle with excuses in our business building. We are making excuses for why we're not making enough money. We are making excuses for why we don't have any clients or not enough clients. We are making excuses first to ourselves, and then we're believing those, and then we're telling those to other people, right? For years, I did that with my husband. I made excuses for my lack of income in this business, but I kept spending money into this business, right? How many of us can say that? I'm embarrassed to admit that, but that's what I did. And then I would make excuses as to why the income wasn't there. I believed them myself. Back to what we were talking about today, working on it Wednesday, daily disciplines. My excuses were in order to cover my own butt. And even today, when I find myself making them, and how many of us still do occasionally, when I was covering my own butt to avoid new daily disciplines. I wanted to avoid the discipline of setting everything else aside to get my task list done. I wanted to avoid the daily discipline of preparing my spirit and my body and my mind for the day. I wasn't doing alone time with my CEO, who is God. I wasn't doing that faithfully. I wasn't doing self-care faithfully a few years ago. And that's been something I've really worked on in the last couple of years. We're going to talk about that more later this month. And we're talking about that on the chat, the coffee and chat we have on the 11th too, along with these other things. So all month, you guys, we're going to be delving into what this really means, daily disciplines, and no longer making the excuses of running from the obedience and the surrender and the work that it takes to be disciplined in our business. What is it God has called you to do? Are you supposed to be reaching people you haven't reached yet? Are there groups of people you're supposed to be speaking to? And that one convicts me deeply because I have ran from the speaking idea and role for a long time now. It's not my favorite. And I've known all along it's part of where he wants me. So what is it for you? Is it group coaching? Is it leading a Bible study? Is it, I'm getting all these messages at the same time of this recording. So everybody's different. It might be a different thing. Maybe you're not writing your book. Are you supposed to be writing your book? That takes some massive daily discipline, right? To force yourself to get those words out before you go to bed every day. Are you supposed to be updating your blog? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you supposed to be building streams of income that are on autopilot? That's me this year. He said, get back to what I told you to do 2 years ago. Get right back to it. And that is all about building automated streams of income for the business. And I don't know what he's preparing me for, maybe for that speaking circuit. hopefully it's not for a bad thing, because we've had enough of those for a couple years. I need a little breather. But what is he telling us? That's what he's telling me. Guess what? That means some mundane, day-to-day, I don't want to do it kind of work. That means weekly blog publishing hasn't happened yet faithfully. That means forcing myself that I don't go to bed before those 1,200 words are written. Gosh, my inbox is blowing up. This is great though. Yay! So anyway, and putting aside the inbox, right? Putting aside social media, put it down if you are supposed to be writing. I'm talking to me here, guys. What is he telling us to do that we are making excuses for, that we are avoiding because we are not willing to do the work and the obedience of daily disciplines? And